The scorching Egyptian sun hovered over the Valley of the Kings like a blazing sentinel. Dr. Leila Hassan stood at the base of a jagged limestone cliff, brushing away sand and sweat with equal urgency. Her hands trembled slightly as they traced. The faint outline of an ancient cartouche barely visible on the rock face. "Here," she whispered, brushing away the dust. The symbol of Neferker, an obscure pharaoh whose reign had been erased from nearly every record, emerged from the Afro. Stone like a ghost, breaking free from eternity. The legends were true. The scroll of eternity existed. Leila had been warned. The elders of Luxor called it El Lanat al-Daima, the eternal curse. Several archaeologists who chased the myth had vanished, never to be seen again. But Leila's passion for unraveling. History burned brighter than any superstition. At 34, Leila Hassan had already led excavations in Saqqara, Giza, and Karnak. But this was different. It felt alive. Omar el-Sayed, her loyal assistant, climbed over the ridge carrying equipment. "You found something?" "Not just something." Leila smiled faintly. "The entrance." The wind shifted unnaturally. As Leila pressed a carved Ankh symbol, with a grinding moan, the rock parted to reveal a narrow stone corridor, descending into darkness. They lit their torches and stepped inside. The air was dense with the musky scent of decay and incense that had lingered for millennia. Hieroglyphs covered every surface. Figures of Ra, Isis, and Horus gazed at them from the walls. The flicker of their torches made the carvings seem to move as they advanced deeper. The passage opened into a rectangular chamber. Leila froze. There, illuminated in shafts of golden light from unseen vents, lay the chamber depicted in ancient legend. A vast scroll, several meters long, stretched across a stone platform, flanked by 4 black alabaster jars. The scroll was unrolled, its linen fibers intact, covered in immaculate hieroglyphic script. Incense holders with long reed brushes and small bronze tools rested nearby. If the scribe had merely stepped out, the walls bore ominous warnings. Only he who is worthy may gaze upon the secrets of time. All others will be judged. Omar gulped audibly. This is no ordinary tomb. Leila knelt, reverently examining the scroll. The craftsmanship was flawless. She brushed her fingers gently along the hieroglyphs, which narrated the unrecorded tale of Pharaoh Neferker, the ruler who had attempted to master destiny itself. Suddenly, Leila's torch flickered violently. Cold air whooshed through the chamber. "Do you feel that?" Omar whispered, backing away. Leila nodded, heart pounding. In the corner, the shadow of a tall figure loomed against the stone. There was no one there. "Leave this place." A voice rasped faintly in ancient Egyptian. The air stilled. The torches burned steady once more. Leila's scientific mind wrestled with her racing instincts. She should leave, seal the tomb, and walk away. But the scholar inside her refused. "This scroll holds knowledge lost to mankind. I have to document it," she told Omar. Her fingers traced the first line. "The king who sought to defy the gods." The stone door behind them rumbled shut. The chamber had claimed its next visitors. Leila inhaled sharply and whispered, "We are not alone." The scroll of eternity had begun to reveal its secrets. The moment Leila finished reading the first passage, a sudden tremor rippled through the chamber. Dust rained down from the high vaulted ceiling. Omar stumbled backward, dropping his torch, the flame hissing out as it hit the cold stone floor. Deep growl resonated through the walls. The air thickened. Leila's breath became shallow. The ancient warning etched above the entrance flashed in her mind. All others will be judged. "Dr. Hassan, look." Omar gasped. The stone statuette. The far end of the chamber, a towering figure of a man with the head of a falcon and the scepter of power began to move. Its obsidian eyes glowed with a terrifying crimson light. The figure stepped forward. "I am Menkora," it intoned, "High Priest and Eternal Guardian of the Scroll of Eternity." Leila's legs almost gave out. This was no hallucination. The ancient Ka, the soul of the High Priest, had awakened. "Why have you come?" The Guardian's voice echoed like thunder. Leila steadied herself. "I seek knowledge. I do not wish to steal or destroy." The Kia narrowed its eyes. Many have claimed the same. All were judged. Omar whispered frantically, "We have to go. Now." But the stone door was sealed shut. Escape was impossible. The K lifted its scepter. Light exploded from the walls, and Leila was enveloped in blinding gold. The chamber dissolved. Leila found herself transported into a vivid vision, the royal court of Pharaoh Neferker. Golden columns towered overhead. Nobles in linen robes and elaborate headdresses bowed before the pharaoh seated on an ivory throne. She watched, unable to move, as High Priest Menkora approached the pharaoh. "Your Majesty," Menkora said. Solemnly, "the enemies of Kamat grow strong. We must act." Pharaoh Neferker held out a long scroll, the Scroll of Eternity. "The gods have granted me this. It shows all possible futures. With it, I will become eternal." Menkora hesitated. "To interfere with time is forbidden. You risk divine wrath." Neferker's eyes burned with ambition. "I will not bow to fate. My reign will never end." The vision shattered. Leila collapsed to the chamber floor, gasping. The Sia towered above her. "Do you now understand the danger?" Leila nodded. "Yes, but I also understand its historical value. I must continue." The Ka glided backward. "Features unreadable. Very well. You will face the trials of Mat. Only if your heart remains pure will you succeed." Without warning, the ground shifted. The scroll rolled itself partially, revealing a second layer, an intricate map inscribed with symbols of Ra, Anubis, and Thoth. Omar leaned over. "It's a map of the deeper chambers beneath the tomb." Leila's heart raced. The Scroll of Eternity was only the beginning. Suddenly, a faint voice called from beyond the sealed door. "Dr. Hassan? Omar, are you inside?" It was Marcus Voss. Leila froze. Voss was a notorious treasure hunter, driven by greed and a ruthless disregard for preservation. She had crossed paths with him at Saqqara and had vowed never to work with him. "Stay quiet," Leila whispered, too late. The stone door rumbled open slightly. Voss squeezed through, flashlight in hand. His eyes widened at the sight of the scroll. "I knew it." Voss laughed darkly. The legends were real. The Ka's eyes flared again. "You are unworthy." But Voss was already moving. His boot stepped onto a pressure plate. Click, dot. A deafening roar echoed through the corridor. From unseen vents, thousands of scarabs poured into the chamber, a living black tide. "Run!" Leila screamed. They scrambled toward a narrow side passage marked on the map. The scarabs surged behind them, devouring everything in their path. Leila and Omar barely made it through as a stone slab slammed shut behind them, cutting off the swarm. Gasping for air, Leila checked the map. The next phase of their journey awaited. The labyrinth of trials. The Guardian's voice whispered once more from the darkness. "The judgment has only begun." Leila tightened her grip on the scroll. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready. The labyrinth awaited. Leila and Omar stood at the threshold of the dark, twisting corridor. The walls shimmered faintly under their torches, etched with symbols of gods and creatures that seemed to shift when not directly observed. "This place feels alive," Omar whispered. Leila studied the map. The inked lines formed a winding path of dead ends, traps, and puzzles. At the center was the throne room of Neferker, where the final secret of the scroll awaited. A sound echoed behind him. The unmistakable click of heavy boots. Marcus Voss, Leila's. Pulse quickened. She and Omar pushed deeper into the labyrinth. The walls narrowed. The air grew thick and stale. The first chamber revealed itself. A vast open room with a stone floor covered in pressure plates. At its center, a golden statue of Mat held a feather and a scale. The trial of balance. Leila murmured hieroglyphs explained the test. Only by following the correct sequence of plates, representing truth and order, could they cross safely. Leila and Omar carefully traced the path, stepping only on tiles marked with symbols of Mat, ostrich feathers, scepters, and ankhs. One misstep and sharpened spears jutted from hidden slits. Breathless, they reached the other side. They barely had time to rest when Voss emerged behind them. Ignoring the warnings, he stomped across the plates. Click. The ground opened beneath him. Voss caught himself on the edge, cursing, and hauled himself up. His greedy glare locked onto Leila. "I'm taking that scroll," he growled. "No, you're not." Leila stood firm, but the Ka's whisper filled the room. Greed will not be tolerated. The walls shifted. A hidden door opened into the next chamber. The trial of shadows awaited. The chamber was pitch black. Leila's torch barely pierced the gloom. Silhouettes of Anubis statues loomed in every corner. A riddle was carved into the door. The god of embalming walks only where death follows. Step where he leads, or join him forever. Leila deciphered it quickly. The correct path was to follow the faint footprints of Anubis carved into the stone floor. One wrong step meant falling into a bottomless pit. They moved carefully. Omar's foot slipped, sending a stone tumbling into the darkness. It never hit bottom. With trembling precision, they reached the far door. The third chamber tested both mind and spirit. An enormous stone disk. The wheel of Ira spun furiously. Around it were 8 levers, each marked with a different symbol. The sun, scarab, lotus, falcon, cobra, ibis, jackal, and crocodile. Hieroglyphs warned. Only when Ro's cycle is restored will a path open. Leila's knowledge of Egyptian mythology guided her. She pulled the levers in order of the sun's journey. Scarab, rebirth. Lotus, dawn. Falcon, sky, and finally sun. The wheel slowed. The door rumbled open. They stumbled into the final corridor. The oppressive energy shifted. They had reached the throne room of Neferkare. The chamber was majestic. A massive ivory throne sat atop a raised dais. Surrounding it were towering statues of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Their stone gazes piercing. At the foot of the throne lay a sealed chest, bound with golden clasps shaped like serpents. The full scroll of eternity. Leila breathed. The she materialized. "Again, you stand at the final test, Leila Hassan. Take the scroll, and you take the burden. Choose wisely." Before Leila could speak, Voss burst into the chamber, his face slick with sweat and madness. "That belongs to me," he screamed. Voss lunged, shoving Omar aside and grabbing the chest. The serpents uncoiled violently. Voss shrieked as ghostly arms dragged him into the ground. His flashlight clattered lifelessly to the floor. Leila knelt beside Omar, who was barely conscious. Blood trickled from a gash on his head. The Ka stared down at her. "You alone remain. Will you claim the power or return it to darkness?" Leila touched the chest reverently. Knowledge should not be used to control destiny. She closed the clasps. The scroll would remain sealed. The chamber trembled violently. The K nodded once. "Your judgment will come." The stone walls began to crack. Dust cascaded like waterfalls from the ceiling. Leila grabbed Omar's arm. "We have to go." Clutching the partially unrolled scroll for safekeeping, Leila laid them back into the labyrinth as the ancient tomb began to collapse behind them. Asterisk. The labyrinth shook violently. Ancient walls cracked and buckled as centuries of sand and stone gave way. Leila half-dragged, half-carried Omar through the dark, winding passages, the sounds of splitting rock and crumbling ceilings chasing them. Like a living beast behind them, the Ka's voice echoed, "You cannot outrun your judgment." A final stone door appeared ahead, sealed with an intricate carving of Anubis, weighing a heart against a feather, the ancient weighing of the heart. "We're trapped," Omar gasped, blood streaking his temple. Leila pressed her palm against the cold carving. The door rumbled and parted slightly. A golden light spilled out without thinking. Leila stepped inside the Hall of Two Truths. Leila stood alone in an endless chamber where the sky merged with the floor in an ethereal glow. Statues of ancient gods lined the perimeter, Osiris on his throne, flanked by Isis and Nephthys. Anubis stood by the scales. The Ka of Menkora waited solemnly. "You carry the scroll of eternity. You must now face the judgment of the gods," the Ka declared. Leila's heart pounded. "I came only to protect history." Anubis approached with measured steps, holding the scales of Mat. From nowhere, the ghostly figure of Amit, the devourer of souls, materialized half lion, half crocodile, half hippopotamus. Its eyes glowed hungrily. Anubis gently removed Leila's her soul's essence, and placed it on one side of the scale. On the other side, he placed the feather of truth. The scale wavered dangerously. Leila closed her eyes. "Let my intentions be pure." The scales settled. Perfect balance. The Ka stepped back. "You have passed," Osiris spoke, his voice a booming whisper. "You chose preservation over power. Your heart is light. You may return to the world of the living." The scroll of eternity floated into the air. The golden light absorbed it completely. The scroll disintegrated into shimmering dust, scattering like stardust across the hall. "No." Leila reached out instinctively. Osiris shook his head. "The knowledge must remain in the realm of the gods. Mankind is not yet ready." The chamber began to dissolve. The gods faded. Leila awoke, lying on the desert floor. The sun was rising over the Valley of the Kings. Omar stirred beside her, groaning weakly. They were outside. The cliffside entrance to the tomb was gone, completely sealed beneath solid rock, as if it had never existed. Leila looked down. In her hand, she clutched a single fragment of papyrus with an untranslatable glyph, a parting gift, or perhaps a warning. Omar sat up slowly. Was it real? Leila stared at the sealed cliffside. I don't know. Maybe it was never meant to be found. Weeks later, back in Cairo, Leila stood in her university's private archives, staring at the fragment under glass. No analysis. No light spectrum. No X-ray could decipher its markings. Scholars speculated wildly. Was it part of the lost scroll of eternity? Leila never said. Her public report described only minor relics and pottery fragments found at the excavation site. The world would not know the full truth. As she left the archives, she paused under a statue of Thoth, the god of wisdom. The wind stirred gently through the open window, carrying the faintest whisper. The scroll of eternity remains. Waiting. Leila smiled faintly. Some mysteries, she realized, are better left unsolved.